The silence in Daniel's apartment was heavy, broken only by the hum of a refrigerator that had seen better decades. On the kitchen table, a stack of late notices served as a coaster for a half-eaten sandwich. The blue glow of his laptop was the only light, illuminating a face etched with the exhaustion of 6 years of 12-hour shifts. Daniel's eyes flickered between two tabs. The first was a social media post from his brother, Marcus, a photo of his niece, Maya, smiling. The caption, "Almost home." The second tab was his bank balance, $13,860. That number was his escape hatch. It was the deposit for his own truck, the owner-operator dream that would finally turn him from a cog in the machine into a man with a future. But then he toggled to a third tab, top-tier family law defense, retainer, $12,000. He knew Marcus's court-appointed lawyer was drowning. He knew Marcus, a good man caught in a bad system, would lose custody without a specialist. Daniel's hand shook not from fear, but from the physical toll of the road. With a jagged breath, he clicked transfer. The dream of the truck vanished. In a digital blink, days later, Daniel stood in the glass and steel lobby of Logistics HQ. He looked like a smudge on a clean window, wearing a thrifted blazer over his work shirt. Inside the conference room, Richard Coleman sat buffing his fingernails, looking expensive and untouched by the world. The compliance officer, a man who looked as though he were made of beige paper, didn't look up from his file. "Mr. Brooks, we've reviewed the footage. You ignored a direct order from a property owner. A clear breach of protocol. There was a child in that fire." Daniel's voice was raspy, like tires on gravel. "The child is a police matter," the officer sighed. "This is a conduct matter. We are moving to terminate your contract." Coleman offered a small, victory lap smile. He hadn't just gotten Daniel fired. He was erasing the delivery boy who had dared to see him at his weakest. The door to the conference room didn't burst open. It swung with a slow, heavy gravity. Sarah, the woman from the burning house, walked in. She held Maya's hand. Behind them was Rita Solis, a public defender, carrying a box of files like a shield. "This meeting is closed," the beige officer snapped. "This meeting is a liability nightmare," Rita countered, slamming a folder onto the mahogany table. "Open it." Sarah stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Coleman's. The man's smugness began to leak away. The gardener found the electrical report you hid, Richard, the one you signed, the one that said the upstairs wiring was a ticking bomb. "That's hearsay," Coleman stammered. "It's discovery," Rita interrupted. "And those neighbors you've been threatening, the ones whose hose you run, they're in the lobby. They aren't here for Daniel. They're here for Sarah, outside the glass walls." A silent phalanx had formed. The gardener, the woman in the sun hat, the man in the polo shirt. They weren't protesters. They were witnesses. Sarah turned to the officer. "If you fire the man who saved my daughter because this coward told you to, I will make sure every news outlet in Arizona knows your company prefers property damage over children's lives." The silence that followed was the kind that happens right before a building collapses. The officer looked at Coleman, now a liability, and then at Daniel. Maya broke the tension. She walked to the table and placed a small, crumpled drawing in front of Daniel. It was a stick figure in a bright blue truck. The gavel fell with a final, echoing thud. Custody awarded to Marcus Brooks. Marcus collapsed into his chair, sobbing. With relief, Daniel stood behind him, a heavy, scarred hand on his brother's shoulder. Outside on the courthouse steps, Marcus looked at him, the realization dawning. "How did you afford that lawyer, Dan? The truck deposit. You spent it, didn't you?" Daniel looked at the horizon. "The truck can wait," he said quietly. "You can't." The white delivery truck, the old one, with a dent in the door and the temperamental engine nippled into the Silver Canyon cul-de-sac. Daniel got out, moving a bit slower these days. His arm was scarred, a jagged map of the afternoon that changed everything. He walked to Coleman's house. A for sale sign stood in the yard like a tombstone. The gardener was there, trimming the same hedge. As Daniel passed, the man didn't say a word. He simply took off his hat and held it over his heart, a silent salute between men who knew the truth. That night, Daniel sat at his kitchen table. The late notices were gone. The $340 envelope for the man like you was long gone. He pulled out a fresh envelope and a single $10 bill. He added the fives. In careful block letters, he wrote, "The cushion." He looked at Maya's drawing taped to the fridge. He wasn't an owner-operator. He was still a driver, still grinding, still one breakdown away from the edge. But as he closed his eyes, he realized he didn't need to do the math tonight. For the first time in 6 years, the numbers added up perfectly.